Hey, welcome back, everyone. I just wanted to get into this whole Ukraine issue. It's a pretty big issue here. Obviously, anytime you have any type of big geopolitical action going on, where it can include war, it could always expand to include larger nations. So it could be a World War III scenario. It looks like it's starting to cool off a tiny bit because Putin has stated that he only wants that one area in Crimea for the ports and things like that. There in the Black Sea. But with this whole situation in Ukraine, I mean, obviously, you've got something like 30-40%, which is pro-West, and the other 60% or 70% or whatever is pro-Russia. And this smaller minority is being funded, just like we saw in Syria with the U.S. and the EU backing Al-Qaeda to take over Assad's regime. They're doing the same thing here, where they're funding an unpopular minority, kicked out the guy who was a democratically elected leader there in Ukraine, who was pro-Russia, and put in a Western-backed dictator type. And the majority is very angry about this, and that's why it's a powder keg here, and it's a serious situation. And once again, we see this is their MO. This is what they do. Our governments fund proxy wars in other countries, and that's how they're encircling Russia. By basically putting in in Ukraine and Syria and attempting in other places all around Russia. I would imagine Chechnya and places like that will be coming up next, which they already have some things going on in Chechnya and Kazakhstan and all the other places that are surrounding Russia. So it's incredible to watch. It's really incredible to watch this world domination thing going on, and just it's like a big chess match that we're seeing happen. It's like a big game of Risk. And like I said, it's just incredible. I'm going to go ahead and get off now, and I'm going to have Joey do 2 minutes on his opinion in what's going on in Ukraine. And then after that, we're going to turn it over to Stefan Molyneux, who was on the Alex Jones show today, and he gave a brilliant presentation on what's actually going on in Ukraine with much, much more detail. He really knows his stuff, and I really respect his opinion greatly. So, InfoWarrior 2020 signing out. And here's Joey.
Welcome back, everybody. Joey's here. Just want to touch on this quick Ukraine thing. I mean, me and Jeron usually do videos together, but he wants me to try this solo thing. So I'm gonna check it out. Hit the comment button if you have a comment to leave. I would enjoy it very much. Basically, what I want to talk about is how the European Union is basically using the same tactics they've used for the last 90 years, 100 years, however many years. They hit these smaller countries who have no defense. They use not just war, they use these proxy stuff. They use protesters. And they use undercover guys to actually infiltrate the countries. And like in Ukraine, you have Americans, you have Europeans who are actually the protesters in this. You have snipers up top shooting at the protesters. But basically all this is this the journalists who are run by the government. We'll just use the word government, to put out this hobo joke that the Ukraine president is actually shooting at his own people. But in fact, he was actually trying to help his people. If the European Union gets in there, and actually, well, they're already in there. If they actually get complete control of that country, they're going to turn against their heritage. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you have us trying to take all of the area which Russia uses to import and export materials during the summer, so in the winter they don't have to worry about trying to go through that horrible, horrible ocean. But so basically, I'm not good talking by myself, but I just basically wanted to get out there that this is basically another way that our government is trying to stick it to Russia. But Russia's sick of it. Russia's tired of us using our proxy stuff. He knows Obama is a communist. He knows we're run by communist people. I mean, he knows how horrible this country is, not the people in the country, but he knows how horrible our leaders are. And we're becoming just like Hitler's Germany, good people in a bad situation. And that we just need to tell Obama, we need to tell all these people that we're not going to take it. We don't need to have a revolution with fighting. Nothing comes good out of fighting. And this is what I see us becoming to. But if you look into the past, if we have a violent war between the state and the people, that it's just, it's horrible. Anyway, let me get back on the subject. Okay, so this is it. Basically, we need to stop our president for even messing with Russia or Ukraine. Basically, we need to start writing letters saying, listen, get away from it, stay away from it, we don't want to be around it. Just because this is another way, instead of violently attacking Ukraine to get Russia out like we want to do in Syria by throwing out the regime, he's just doing it another way. So all I'm saying is that we need to let him know that we're done with all his shenanigans. This is Joey for InfoWorld 2020 channel. Peace.
This segment's only 6 minutes long. And Stefan, I know you're a big geopolitical analyst. I wanted to get your take on the situation in the Crimea, in the Ukraine.
Well, I guess the first thing to recognize is that up until 1953, the Ukraine was part of Russia, and they still very much identify. I mean, the whole eastern half of the country speaks Russian and is very nationalistic, very Russian nationalistic. It is one of the most corrupt autocracies in all of Europe, in fact, in all of the world outside of Africa. I mean, the level of corruption is...
It's a mess.
Staggering. I mean, the amount of debt and so on. Now, they want to join the EU. A study came out, I shouldn't laugh because it's just tragic, but a study came out in, I think...
Out of the fire into the furnace.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of corruption in the EU has been estimated conservatively as about the same size as the entire economy of Ukraine. So the idea that they're going to go to the EU to try and get away from corruption is completely mad. Yeah, it's out of the frying pan into the fire. Now, of course, Russia has for many years been paying the Ukraine to store the so the Fourth Fleet is in Crimea. And when in a time of instability, when they don't know which way the government is going to go, it seems to me, I don't know for sure, but it seems to me that Putin is simply saying, I need to go in and secure my fleet. Because I don't know what's going to happen to the government, and this is exactly, I mean, if Turkey was about to be taken over, if America thought Turkey was about to be taken over by a communist government, they would move in to secure their bases. They would move in to secure their military assets. It seems to me that...
Plus, this is right on the Russian border.
Yeah.
It used to be part of Russia. So it's I'm not defending Russia, it's just the West is in there starting the whole thing is my issue.
Yeah, and of course, Russia, Putin, one of Putin's arguments is, look, he says, I stood behind America when they went into Iraq, which I disagreed with, when they wanted some of the Eastern Bloc countries to join EU and NATO. I didn't stand in the way. But, you know, enough interference. You know, he feels that the West is coming in and interfering on stuff right at the border. And remember what happened in '62 when the missiles were going to be installed in Cuba? I mean, America went insane because it was right off the coast of America. And this is right off the coast. Right off the coast. It's right attached to Russia, and it was a former satellite. So
no, but you're right. They're moving NATO ships into that area as well.
Yeah,
and so it's a major escalation.
And America has been spending $5 billion over the past 15, 20 years to promote its agenda in Ukraine. And, you know, there have been some reports that some of the protesters are being directly paid by American satellite organizations and so on. So that is an extreme invasion of sovereignty of Eastern Europe and of Russia. Again, not to defend Russia. It's an autocracy and Putin's a horrible thug.
But it's a giant provocation, and in common law and in common sense, you start something, you lose moral high ground, which shows the delusional nature with Kerry saying you can't invade countries when they just did this to Syria, they just did this to Libya, and now they actually started this operation. It just shows the hubris. You raised the point of Sarah Palin and Mitt Romney and Obama laughing at them.
Yeah, so in a debate with Mitt Romney in the last cycle, Mitt Romney said, well, you know, Russia could do something in the Ukraine. And Barack Obama laughed at him and said, the 1980s are calling, they want their foreign policy back. The Cold War's been over for 20 years. Now, I think the Democratic Party has always had a pretty soft spot for Russia since the Aldra-Hiss incident and the HUAC, and they were covering up so much of spies, Russian spies, inside.
Well, yeah, I mean, putting libertarians and conservatives and freedom lovers in death camps is their dream, so Stalin was kind of their rock star.
yeah, and the covering up of Stalin's crimes and all of this kind of stuff. So people,
Let's just put it this way: they have pinups spread centerfolds of Stalin.
oh yeah, they've really been very pro-communist, very pro-Russia, because they're on the left, right? You know, the moment is like anti-Russia on the left is about as prevalent as anti-war sentiments when you have a Democrat in the White House. So yeah, so I think that they're not really seeing things very clearly. Russia has changed to some degree, but it is still remains very autocratic, very, very dictatorial. And you know, this guy came out of the KGB ranks, not known for its touchy-friendly democratic feelers. So I think it is not something that is going to be a huge escalation situation. It's just that they moved to protect their military assets when there was an unstable government. That seems to me. I mean, I don't agree with any of it. I mean, it's all just a bunch of thugs. But I can.
And the EU just wants to liquidate another corrupt state and suck it dry. And this group of thugs want to be paid off by the EU for the assets. I mean, all it is Russia and the EU and George Soros struggling over looting something.
Well, and now, you know, the way they're being bought off, and it all comes back down to buying people off. It's all just a mafia movie in nice suits.
Ask yourself, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock mine?